They were part of China. There was a whole empire. It was called the Empire of the Orient. It was the Orient Empire. There were other nations that were named, like Mongolia and all those nations now that you definitely don't hear about anymore. But those nations were also ruled one time by the Russian Empire. See, if everyone really did their real, I would say, educate themselves based upon research, history research, and find where all of these places first came from. What was their original names? What was their original or would-be status? And majority of you're not doing your research. You're going by what you hear on the YouTubers and all those guys, and half those guys that are coming out of these secret societies, whereby they do a little bit of study, but they don't do the entire study. So their studies, they would realize has to be hundreds and hundreds of years. What I have derived at myself, I have had extensive study based upon dealing with the relatives, my forefathers, my fathers. They have given me these studies, and I have a lot of books. I have books dated back to the 16th and the 15th and the 13th century. But I got those books by way of my great-grandfathers and grandfathers and fathers before them. So I didn't arrive at just coming up with any type of information. I got it, majority of my information, from the mouth of the horse, if you want to put it in a mild manner. So I sat down with grandmothers of mine, which my grandmother, again, I repeat, was 120 years old when she passed away. 120. We did not put her in the book of Guinness Book of World Records. We didn't even inform anybody of her true age. For a long time, she didn't even know her own real age, based upon the fact. That's possibly why she lived so long. She didn't know how to count numbers. She didn't know letters, because she was born at a time where none of that was needed. And all she had to do was know how to at least either have babies or bring babies forth. And she was a midwife. That's what she did. She was a midwife, and no, she didn't do that for a living, but she got, I would say, very much taken care of because of that. She ended up working at a place called LSU University, not having an education, not having the ability to be able to read books, but it was her ability to know the female's anatomy. It was her ability to know, even just by touch, what they were feeling and what they were going through. And by her having 17 children of her own, I would classify her like they did, an expert at either having them or helping others have them. So I don't derive all of my education, my knowledge from books or from some school. And yes, I did attend the university. I attended them. I went to what would be classified seminaries. I went to those as well. And I also did what would be classified as experience training. I went to Thailand. I walked, I traveled, I worked, I learned amongst those that were known as Buddhist monks. I also found myself in Saudi. I found myself in Jordan. I was at the temples with those that would be classified as Islamic brothers. I studied Buddhism, Sufism, you name it. I studied it by experience. So I don't derive my information by a bunch of books out there or by some YouTuber that finally got their hands on some information. Mine is totally true experience. I'm a little bit different than a doctor would be, so-called Martin Luther King Jr. He received his by way of school. Mine came by experience. That's how I achieved mine. And due to the fact that I was there, I trained, I received all those degrees. I was also given those things that we classify to be tokens and awards. And I still bear those things to this day. I have Lloyd certificates. Some of those certificates are as tall as I am, with signatures on them, from all the people that were there present during the training or the study of the experience in which we had gone through. So I need you to understand that when I'm telling you something, I'm not guessing, and neither am I assuming. I'm telling you the facts. So those of you that realize that Hong Kong is being called, I was referencing why it was being called, not that they should not be called. I was letting you know that the only way they got their sovereignty was through me, Dr. Hindu Iole Henderson. I am responsible for their sovereignty. In China, yes, I still have a degree of discussion with China based up on that, such as talking about Crimea. Crimea happened in the 1990s. I need you to understand that when our host Shelley was talking to you about 1979, I just so happened to be in the military in 1979. For those of you that's been trying to figure out my age, let me help you out a little bit. In 1979, I was in the United States Army. I sure was. And I was doing a lot of traveling at that time. By the time the Berlin Wall, the Eastern Berlin Wall came down in Germany, I was there. I was working in the Bundestag. The Bundestag is the capital of Germany. I was there. I was working in there, wearing civilian clothes, but I was still a military soldier. I have documents to prove that. I have also medallions that I wear. I have a pin that I wear on my collar like the United States wears their flag. I have the Bundestag that I call him a dead eagle because it's a black bird that's on it. I need you to understand that Dr. Henderson does not bring you information based upon what he read or based upon what someone is telling him on some YouTube. He don't get it from YouTube. I don't get it from the Instagram. I don't get it from TikTok. I didn't even get it from people like Eric Snowden. He got it from me. Eric Snowden was a specialist in the United States Army when I was there. I was also working in the same building he was working in at that time. Fort Meade, Maryland, NSA. I was there. In 1984, we had palm recognition on the outside of the building that all we had to do was place our hands on a certain brick in that building. The doors would open and unlock for us and only us. I don't need for anyone to question me based upon the fact that you're trying to find out where I get my information from. I'm telling you now, I'm not afraid. I'm not nowhere afraid to tell everyone why I've obtained my knowledge and why I know so much. I don't need WikiLeaks. I don't need Julian Assange to tell me anything because I knew about Julian Assange possibly right along with him knowing about himself and what he was going to get into. I was in during that time. I was in the 1990s. I know all about our senators. Some of them, I covered them as nothing more than their guard, their protector, because I was still in the United States military. I spent time at Fort Hood in Texas, where the Abrams tank is known to be where it was first invented and tested. That was Fort Hood, Texas. I also spent time at Fort Gordon, Georgia, which is known as the Whitby so-called headquarters and the main Whitby Communication Center for the whole entire international world. Fort Gordon, Georgia, on Yankee site. I was there. I was an instructor on that site. When the Patriot missile came out, I had already been working with Raytheon. I had worked with Raytheon in their communications division, helping them put together those things. I have a long Whitby history behind me of experiences that now they classify it as being a Whitby outstanding resume. But I don't look at it as a resume because I'm not looking for a job, and I'm not looking for recognition. I'm not looking for prestige. I'm not looking for anyone to honor me because of that. It was an experience that I know for a fact came by way of Yahosua, my Father, God of this universe, and I am humbled. I am so humble because a lot of places I was, perhaps maybe I should not have been. I was at Fort Bliss, Texas. I trained a man, and I'm not proud of it, but I trained a man that they deemed him to be nothing more than a demon to the planet. Timothy McVeigh. He was right there at Fort Bliss, Texas in basic training, and I was a drill sergeant at that time on that same Whitby Logan Heights installation. I have been to White Sands Missile Range. I used to take soldiers there every other 8 weeks. I would be out there on White Sands Missile Range. I have been to Germany. I have been down the Rhine River. I have spent my time out there in the frozen Whitby areas of Germany. I was there with one in which everybody knows to be Colin Powell. He and I, we was in the same outfit. He was one of my commanders. I went from there. I went to Thailand. I have a long resume, as one would say, based upon experiences. So I'm not giving you something that I'm reading. I'm not giving you something that someone bought me. I was there. I was there. After I retired in Fort Lewis, Washington. I came out of a unit, of a Special Forces unit. I came out of a unit with one by the name of John Muhammad, which was classified another demon of your Whitby world, whereby they said he was one of the DC snipers. I need you to understand, people, as I'm talking right now, they're listening to me, and they already have verified this. They have confirmed it. So I don't need anyone to give me any recognition based upon somebody else's information. I knew John Hope Franklin, the so-called historian for the so-called black people in the world of the New World. I didn't need him. I worked around him. I knew him well. I knew people such as the senators that sat in the White House. I was a soldier. I went there often just to be there. I was a former drill sergeant. I had an X-ray would-be so-called skill qualification. I qualified with the first would-be so-called weapon that fired on any would-be computer range. And I was the one that hit 80 out of 80 shots. I trained all my soldiers on the first computer range that came out of the United States Army, and I was in the top 5% of the United States military all together. So I don't need anybody to give me this recognition for it. I earned mine. I worked hard. I was dedicated. I will always be dedicated to everything that I do. That's why I'm dedicated to my Father, Yah-Allah. If I can be dedicated to the system that man set up, surely I can be dedicated to the system my Father has called and chosen me for. And that's why I'll never give up. I can give out. My Father would say to me, Isaac, he would say, if anything should ever come of you, he said, let it be said that you gave out, but you never gave up. He said, just collapse. Just collapse doing what you do, but do it each time greater and harder and better. And he says, when you collapse, you will realize that you gave out, but you didn't give up. I don't need anyone to give me anything. And I don't need anyone's other information to pass on to you when I can pass on the information that I know for a fact because I was there. I worked right there in Renton, Washington. I worked right there in Redmond, Washington. I went all the way from there to what is known as Olympia, right there in Washington, their capital. I went from there to Portland, Oregon. I went from there to California. I have been on just about every state, if not all. I've been in all of the states in the United States of America. And one that I normally call him a chief by the name of Johnson, I'm pretty sure he can contest to that because he did the exact same thing that I've done. I don't need anyone else's credibility. I go on what Dr. Henderson has experienced and what he knows, not what he thinks. I have been in the secret society. I went to the highest level in that, 33rd. I'm there. I wear a hat that has 32 on it. I am a 33rd. I am qualified to wear that hat. I was in the Shriners, 152. I was in the would-be Eastern Star, 27 Esther chapter. I've been so many places because I wanted to know the truth and I wanted to be able to deal with the people based upon what I know, not what I was thinking, not what I was reading, not what someone told me, but what I know. And that's why I did all those things. I was a master in what is known as the third-degree Master Mason. I was in the Martin Luther King Jr. Lodge number 65, Renton, Washington. You can check it out on Williams Avenue there. I don't have any reason to tell people something that I haven't already gone to myself or I will be wasting your time. And that's why, as a drill sergeant, I learned a creed. Our creed was, I will never ask any man, any soldier to attempt a task that I am not willing to do myself. And the only reason we use that creed is because we have either or we are already prepared to do just that in accordance to the would-be so-called laws and military regulations. So what I'm doing tonight is, again, clearing up some things for the United States of America. Welcome to the call. This is the United States call. I cleared up some things with the United Nations. It seems like I got more questions from the United States of America than I've gotten from the United Nations. I've only received one question in regards to what was taking place today with me clearing up some things with the United Nations. And it had nothing to do with none of the nations that I mentioned or what I said. I have one question. And that question was, how do I feel now that tomorrow will be my Earth Day, and that nation, they know all about everything I've done and who I am. And they said, how can I still feel the same way I feel? Because I told them I feel great. I love what I do. I'm respecting what I do in regards to what my father's called me to do. I know what I gave up as a family member of a large family, of a founding family of the true United States of America, if they want to call themselves a true United States of America. I am still one of the leaders of the 5 unincorporated nations, and my great-great-grandfather was the leader of all 5 of those nations as their chief. My great-great-grandfather became one on my mother's side. He was one of the Allens, one of the founding people of what they classified to be the secret society, he and his brother. And he became a great grandmaster of that would-be secret society, and that's how I developed what I had and knew. My grandpa Dan was, I would say, one of the most wisest men on the planet, but he was also a man of integrity. And even though he wore a pair of would-be Colt 45 pearl-handled weapons, he never had to worry about any white man talking to him in any manner out the side of their mouth or their face, because he would have splattered them. I didn't come from one of those black families that were in fear of slavery. I didn't. I can't tell you that lie. I must tell you exactly who I was and who I am. We were not those that even sold out the other melanated people to slavery. My family was not one of those families. My family was the one that still held everything together, even though we had some undermining with the melanated people. Nat Turner used to come to my grandfather's house. My grandfather, they called him Nat Love. I don't know where all these so-called Hollywood movies they come up about Nat Love right now. But just so you get a brief history about Nat Love's real name was Nathan Henderson. And they called him Nat Love because he was considered to be a ladies' man. All of these stories in which I hear now, it just puts me in a position where I listen to them and I'm applaud, and they're funny to me sometimes. Chucky Williams, Crip leader, California. He was my cousin. He was from Cooper Road in Shreveport, Louisiana. Johnny Cochran, the greatest would-be so-called lawyer that saved O.J., he was my cousin. Louisiana. Heflin, Brooks, Rango. I can name all those areas, and I'm doing this for the United States of America because a lot of you are listening right now, and you have no clue. I don't care what you Google about me. I don't care what they're talking about me on their Instagram or their Facebook or any other would-be so-called media. I need them to understand that they know nothing about me. And right now, if they're listening to me, they will learn because I'm giving them the truth. And if they want to confirm it, all they got to do is do that. You can go to a little place called Sibling, Louisiana right now. Heflin, Louisiana, Mendon. Just mention the name Henderson and watch and see how many people's ears perk up and their eyes get wide. Because I came from a royal family. They are known from there all the way to Las Vegas to California. You can cross over the waters to Sudan. You can go wherever you want to go. And all you got to do is mention the Hendersons, and you will see someone perk up, and they will ask you, which ones are you talking about? Because they know. So I'm not looking for recognition. What I need you to do is save yourself. I need you to index yourself, because I've already indexed this whole planet. The whole planet, I indexed it. Based upon sovereignty. And that's why everyone is fighting now, because of sovereignty. I bought that to them. My brother, the judiciary would-be, I call him the fiduciary agent. We sat down and we wrote everything up. We drafted paperwork and we made sure that everything was, we would say, all I's dotted and all T's crossed. And if that was an X, we made sure that it was an X and it didn't not look like a T. So I don't need anyone questioning me. Again, I need everyone to save themselves. I already told you, that's why I mentioned the cross. Of crossing the X and not crossing the T. That's why I'm mentioning that. I wanted the T to look like a T and the X to look like an X, because it was an X that they crucified your Christ on, not a T. And I need you to understand that. And that's why I say, if anyone should desire to be me or even to be better than me, or even to come after me with what I'm doing right now, I'm okay with that. But I say let him first deny himself, take up his own cross, and it is an X, not a T, and follow me. That's all I'm asking you to do. And for those of you that did ask the question honestly, this is not what I'm doing now. Is I don't want to defend and to offend you, and I don't want you to feel bad about asking your question. But right now, what I'm doing is I'm making sure that I give you the answers that possibly you're looking for. I am who I say I am. All of the things that I'm saying now have been documented. True documentation cuts out all false conversation. Again, I repeat, true documentation cuts out all false conversation. And because I am who I am, I can tell you exactly where I met every person that I've discussed to you along my way. I met Bill Gates. I was in the state of Washington. He lived on Whidbey Island. I attended his house, doing nothing more than installing communications equipment, cameras, and all of those things that I was installing. I was doing it at his house based upon Paul Allen asking me to do it. Mr. Paul Allen was considered to be Mr. Microsoft. I don't have to tell anybody any stories that I cannot back up. I've told stories to people before they hear me talking about certain would-be small celebrities, I call them, like Nelly, the one I know to be Cornell Haynes Jr. I know him. His uncle and myself was in the United States Army together. We were drill sergeant together. We stood side by side, Haynes and Henderson, because we were always lined up and by capital letters. He was an H and I was an H. He came before me, I would say, on the would-be so-called list of everyone calling names because his name was Haynes and mine was Henderson. But at the same time, he would tell you when we finished that course of what was known as the drill sergeant, I was the commandant's inspector. I was the one that won those would-be so-called awards, not himself. And I never did make him feel any different because we were the same. We wore the same uniform. We wore the same rank. And I respected him like he respected me. Just to say, one might say that we were kind of close in resemblance to each other. We liked everything. We did the same things. But for that token, there were about 27 people in our classes. After about 169 of them had gotten kicked out because they couldn't cut it. They couldn't make it. And there were only 27 left out of a class of 172 people. There were about only 27 that graduated. And he and myself were two of those. I tell these stories of truth so everyone can understand that I'm not looking to take anybody's place. I'm not looking to take anybody's would-be so-called status. I don't desire to be the president of the United States of America. I do not. I have no ambition on being no one's leader of no nation. And I have told all the nations this, that they might be in a position of relief. They don't have to worry about me coming for their job. Not me. I don't want their job. Their job, I tell them, I don't envy them. They got a hard job. Most of them do hard enough work just trying to keep faith within themselves, believing in themselves. I motivate them. I don't make them to try to motivate me. Come on, Vladimir Putin. Come on, Prime Minister. Come on, President. You can make it. You can make it happen. You're not going to be liked by everyone. But if you're called truly by the God in whom you say you believe in, trust him. Only he will judge you. Isn't that right? Only he will judge you. That's the way it works. Yeah, I know Finney, Shakur. I sure did. I know Astani, Shakur. I helped them out along the way as well. I sure did. I had a hand in the part of bringing them back home, making sure that they were released, because I was also a child prodigy of what was known as the BP, not Baptist preachers, but the Black Panther Party. I thank Father Yah. He put me on this planet at a certain time where all things have been met according to me becoming a complete person of interest for this world. I've experienced everything that I might come to know the others and their experience that they're going through. I've come to experience that. I thank my Father for my experiences. I thank him for the travel. That's a true Mason, is one who knows how to travel a straight path and not get off it. That's a true Mason. That's a true Masonic brother. He knows how to travel. He understands that he has some working tools of life. And one of them is called the trowel. The trowel is the greatest would-be tool. I have one of them that was given to me by some would-be brothers of kindness and love, because the trowel is one in which we use to spread brotherly love. And we do that each brick we lay. We spread the semen of love in between it, that it will never separate. And once that spreading of the semen becomes hard with the brick will become hard with the semen, and they will become one. There's a little roughness in them. Every now and then you'll feel the bumps because there's still a little roughness there. But if they maintain that grip of whereby they've been sealed together, that love will never fail. And love is nothing more than charity. And it tells me that love and charity being the same, they will extend even beyond the grave. Now that you know a little bit about me, that's all. Take a break.
Thank you, Yahosua. And wow. Well, he pretty much said it all, family. He gave you a description of who he is, what he came to do, how he obtained his experiences, and I hope everybody is paying attention and taking notes, because once in a while he'll go out and tell us all these things. And like he said, he is royalty. He comes from a family of royalty, from his great ancestors to present day, and we know why. And he also has told us many times before, for all of you who have been listening to these calls, he has told you that he came here with all knowledge and power. Okay, so he knows everything. Now, only because he doesn't want to reveal it at a certain time, well, it's not the right time. Everything works on Father Yah's timeline. So you all have to just be patient. And remember, he also has told you that everybody is here for something. Everybody serves as an example, whether it be a good example or a bad example, but everybody serves as an example. So, you also are supposed to go ahead and be kind to your brothers and sisters, and pass on this information and lend a helping hand whenever you can. So, there's a lot of things that we all can do. I mean, we're not all called to be great or scientists or professors or military leaders or presidents or whatever, but whatever's within your hands to do, you should do, and as simple as, for example, passing on this information on these calls to, your loved ones, your friends, family, and making sure that they're aware of, what's happening and what is going to happen. And the only way they're going to be made aware of these things is if you tell them. Unfortunately, most people's mindset is that